Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. Haystack Help Radio proudly presents Water Talk. Now here's your host, Scott Watley, and owner of Water Pros, Paul the Waterman.
Old Ann and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, water, cool water, clear water, water, water.
Welcome to Water Talk. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Scott Watley, along with Paul the Waterman. That is Paul Dowding, owner of Water Pros. Their number 303-862-5554. And with that, we will welcome the man that knows all things about water, and that is Paul the Waterman. How are you, my friend?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. You made it through the week.
We made it through a week. Yep, we're back here Fridays where it's crazy out there. It really is. I mean,
in every way.
In every way. There's a stranglehold on truthful information regarding our water quality, dude. So, do you realize that the forever chemicals that you and I have been talking about for over 2 years, that they are used in our medication?
In the medication?
In the medication, yep.
Okay.
In the medication. So, you know, people out in radio land, if you got a piece of paper and you drew a big circle on that piece of paper, that was a water drop. And inside that circle, we'd write PFAS, right? PFOs, PFAs. We'd write Gen X, okay? Microplastics, right? 1,4-dioxin, which we know it's there. Chloramine, chlorine. Pharmaceuticals. Herbicides, insecticides, pesticides. That's all in our water. And that's just a very few. So anything, here's another thing. Now, that same water drop, Mr. Watley, sir, is used to water trees that we grow our fruit, right? Bananas grow on trees, right? Coconuts, apples, lemons, and then also our vegetables. And then it's also used, it gets into our meat products. So it's more than just, consumption of water. It's a global accumulation aspect, and it's more than just, it's all over our environment. So every single thing that you and I talk about today, it's a forever issue, and what I mean is those contaminants aren't going to go away.
Right. And they always say, who came up with this parts per billion, parts per trillion? Is that just the scientific way that's always been done?
Yeah, it's a scientific measurement. So I always said that it doesn't take a large number to have a contamination issue, right? Same with, hard water. Water hardness, hard water, extreme hard water starts at only 10 grains per gallon, but you see the effects really, at 3 grains per gallon. Okay, 3 to 5 grains per gallon, you see it build up in your fixtures. Anything over 10, that's, instant calcification, extreme hard water. And so there's some folks in our neighborhood, Commerce City Reunion, their water hardness is back up to over 22 grains per gallon, which is twice the amount of the extreme hard water, number. The hard water measurement was so you could set up and properly, get your water softener set up so it functions properly.
So when you say 22 grain, does water start at 0 and goes from 1 up? I mean, so what would be, is soft water a 3 or 4?
Soft water 0.
Okay, soft water 0.
So you have a 0 at your house right now.
Right.
Okay. Then anything, Colorado water quality is a mixed bag of nuts. So, we look out the studio window here at Water Pros Control radio station. And
Water Pros controlled.
But,
sometimes I do feel like that. No.
Right, I look. You see, from the mountain ranges. My point being is, the farther we can see, there's different water hardness, different water problems in the whole metro area. When I first got involved in water treatment, I was in Illinois. And, no matter from Sterling, Illinois, Rock Falls, Illinois, Dixon, Illinois, the water hardness was pretty much the same. Some areas you had higher iron content than others, but the water hardness was uniform. I mean, Rock Falls, Illinois is, like 25 grains. You had hard water, calcium buildup in the faucets and fixtures. That was just part of life. But then we realized, the damage it could do to our appliances. And, hard water, I was talking to a fella the other day. One of the biggest misconceptions regarding water hardness is people think that the minerals in water are beneficial to us, and that's just not the case.
So many times since we've been doing this show, and I've talked to people about, RO system, they go, well, if you take all the minerals out of the water, you lose all the things you need.
It's not that, that's water. So, water is inorganic. So the minerals in water are inorganic. So if water is inorganic, we don't absorb those minerals. The minerals in water turn into kidney stones, gallstones, glaucoma, can build up in our joints and play havoc as we get older. So, water hardness, what's funny about Mother Nature is that Mother Nature takes water, the plants absorb those minerals, and then it converts it to an organic mineral, then we absorb that. Cows, for example, whoever thought, back in the day, it was a great idea to drink, milk from cows because that's where we get our calcium from. Cows eat the grass, the hay, whatever feed, corn, oats, whatever, the farmers choose to feed their milk cows, that's what produces the milk. Vegetables. So reverse osmosis is an acidic base of 5. And your stomach acid is super acidic to digest the food. Mm-hmm. Okay, so RO water's on par, to be absorbed quickly. Let me ask you a quick question. When you're at home, you have an RO system. Have you ever noticed if you're super thirsty, you get a glass of water, you drink from the RO? Have you ever noticed how fast you could sweat if you're dehydrated?
I can't say honestly. I felt that.
There's a couple times where I'm outside, and during the summer, and if I come in and I'm hot, thirsty, I drink water. It's amazing how fast.
Really?
Yeah, the water's absorbed and it comes out the pores of your body. Okay. It's that quick. So, it's something next, just think about that. Okay. Next time, see if you notice that, because water is basically a flushing agent. So those are things we have to consider. The big picture, going back to this demonstration about the circle is the water drop. All these contaminants that are in the water will affect us. Now, back to your question of part per billion, part per trillion. Isn't that amazing that it started out at 1 part per billion, the contamination of PFAS, that was acceptable. Then they said no. It quickly went down to 4 part per trillion. And now they're saying 0. Do you remember when we first started 1 part per billion, we said was 1 drop in an Olympic-sized swimming pool? Can you imagine how small 4 part per trillion is? Okay. But that's enough to be in a body of water that is unhealthy for us. To the point, what's the contamination in Chatfield Reservoir? Because they put up a sign that last summer, and I'm sure it's going to be there this year because of the drought and the concentration of contaminants. That they only wanted you to consume 1 fish.
Yeah, servings of fish. Paul Dowding is with us. It is Water Pros. Their number 303-862-5554. Hey, call now for your free in-home water test. And we say this every time. This is not a opportunity just to come out and do a high-pressure sales call. That is not it at all. Paul will come out, do the free in-home water test, educate you about your water, and whatever you choose to do from that is your own prerogative. But I'm telling you, he does it with – and, Paul, here's what I like. I just want to touch on this while I'm on it. But, I mean, so many times I remember, man – growing up, in the 70s and all, and man, we had some people come to our house one time. I remember a guy had a briefcase, They came in with some little vials and was pouring things in our water,
Right.
Where you're asking me for 3 or 4 things to do the water test.
It's hard water. So hard water causes your soap to build up and stay in your clothes. So then we take bottled water and rinse a washcloth to show you the trapped soap. That's what hard water is. It's a visual. And if you do that, you're using, your own items, then it's real. Yeah, I'm not taking something and trying to, manufacture, a reaction. Mm-hmm. Before we forget, I want to say hi to Andrew Nyrot, Nowrot. Hope I'm pronouncing your name, Andrew, properly. He's in Woodland Park. He's a listener to the show. And Wednesday, we put a whole house system in for him. So I want to say thank you and say hi to him.
Cool.
And,
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell all your friends and neighbors
right
how to get cool, clean water.
So he's got a beautiful husky. Oh, she has a lot of energy. I love huskies, and she's just a gorgeous, gorgeous puppy. So she was a lot of fun. But anyway, just wanted to say hi to Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I know we get into a lot of things, and this is seems like a science show sometimes, but we just want to get you the right information. And again, when you hear us talk about this, these aren't the topics we come up with just scare people into calling water pros. These are actual things that anyone can find online. So I'm telling you, the facts are there and they are true. But Paul, when we talk about some frequently detected and potentially harmful drugs, let's go through a few of those that are in our water.
So what I did, and everybody can do this, if you go to Google search engine and you type in what are the most dangerous pharmaceuticals in my drinking water, and then you'll get the list. So it starts out by saying, while concentrations are typically in trace amounts, part per billion or trillion. And so I stopped there because we just talked about the parts per billion or trillion with PFAS contamination and how the EPA called out started out with that part per billion, then 4 part per trillion, which is harmful to the human. So that's a small, that's a small minute. Right. That number. But the EPA states that, hey, 0, you can't have any of this contaminant. So my point is, if it's that small, doesn't mean it's safe. Don't get a false sense of security when you see that. And this is why I try to, before the show, I wanted to play that song by Ted Nugent, Stranglehold. The reason being is that, we got to get people to realize that, the truth is deeper than what you think it is. And what I mean is that if they tell you that, it's a part per billion or part per trillion, don't think, that's too small, that's not going to be harmful to me, because that is not the case. And so, the most frequently detected potential harmful drugs, even if it is a part per billion or part per trillion, it's hormones and contraceptives is number one. It's a synthetic estrogen. And the steroid is also it's concerning because it's designed to be active in extremely low concentrations, and it's going to affect the endocrine disruptor that can interfere with human development and have been shown to cause sex changes in aquatic life. So, at a small amount, we have we did some video research a while back, and I remember watching a video out of Minnesota. If you guys go to YouTube, type in Minnesota forever chemical contamination, and we talked about 3M, and 3M basically contaminated major bodies of water all over Minnesota. There's an EPA, the Minnesota EPA scientist was doing some research, and she found that fish in certain lakes around, the state of Minnesota, had more PFAS contamination in their body than blood. That was her own statement. But a person from 3M successfully lobbied the state to get her to shut that study down. Now, there's people that sued, and right now, Justice Anthony Scalia, you can search this. I don't know why, he's recused himself from the case, but there's 2 states that are suing 3M because of the PFAS contamination. And 3M wants to take it to federal court. So 3M has paid hundreds of billions of dollars in lawsuit settlements. Same, with, DuPont. DuPont was the other one and so lawsuits are still ongoing. But, my question is, on a side note, why is this chemical still being made? Mm-hmm. Right? We know it's dangerous. So Gen X, and so the current EPA, which I think, I'm sad they did this. So Gen X chemical is a replacement chemical for PFAS, PFOs, PFAs, and it was on the restricted list, but this current EPA took it off their restricted list, so now it's back to an unregulated contaminant.
Right. That's interesting.
So,
and when you talk about these companies getting fined, it's millions.
It's hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's where's the cap? So it has to tell you where's the cap going to be, and how long, how many more lawsuits has to be before they say enough's enough.
Yeah.
And then there's an convulsant. Can you help me with this?
Carbamazepine.
Yeah.
Carbamazepine.
That's easy for you to say. So it's one of the most persistent drugs in the environment, and it's frequently found in groundwater, and it's difficult for standard treatment plants to remove. So first thing and foremost, as we learned, water treatment plants do not remove these contaminants from the water supply.
Yeah. I tell you what, we got a big list to go through. We're going to go ahead and hit a break real quick, but as I mentioned, call Water Pros now, 303-862-5554. Get scheduled now. Is a great time here before summer, before you hit those hot summer days and you want that cool, clean water. Get Water Pros out now. Get the free in-home water test, 303-862-5554.
How much do you need to lower your monthly mortgage payment? $200, $300, $400 or more? As rates decline, take AIM, Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Over 24 years of saving Coloradans money. Low rates, lower payments, less costs. What makes us different is we listen. As an independent mortgage broker, we shop the top lenders to save you the most. Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Want to purchase your next home? You can't qualify unless you sell your current home? Let us show you how to get the down payment out of your current home, qualify for the new one, and then sell yours for the most. Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. So you want to buy a home. Let us show you loans that can save you money, low down payment, first-time home buyer specials, fixed rates in the 4s with buy-downs. Call for details, 720-895-0500, or apply now at aimortgage.net. That's Affordable Interest Mortgage, where it's all about you. Regulated by DORA and MLS 217147, Equal Credit Lender.
Looking to gear up for your next hunt, fishing trip, or camping adventure? Head to the Outdoorsman's Attic, Colorado's largest consignment store for hunting, fishing, and camping gear, located at 2650 West Hampden. Hey, this is Scott with Sportsman of Colorado Radio, and you'll find wall-to-wall outdoor gear to firearms and ammo. You'll find incredible selection at unbeatable prices, plus clothing over 90 days old is up to 50% off, so there's always great deals waiting. Whether you're upgrading gear or just getting started, the Outdoorsman's Attic is a must-stop. Mention Sportsman of Colorado for additional discounts. It's the Outdoorsman's Attic, where smart outdoorsmen shop. Tell them Scott sent you. It's 2650 West Hampden.
You're listening to 560 KLZ, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Pros. If you're just joining us, my name is Scott Watley. Paul the Waterman is with us. If you, like I say, you're just tuning in, we are talking about some frequently detected and potentially harmful drugs. We've gone through some hormones and contraceptives. We've gone through a drug called carbamazepine, which is a drug frequently found in groundwater. Paul just mentioned. Now, sometimes I think we jump through some terms because we've been talking about this for a long time. When we talk about found in groundwater, what's that mean?
So groundwater is a common source that municipalities use to draw water from to, serve the public.
Okay.
That could be a reservoir, and groundwater, so talk about reservoirs. There's a multi-billion-dollar project outside of Fort Collins that there's a reservoir that they built that they can't use the water because of high concentrations of uranium. That's another. It's a natural element in the water. 600 million years ago, when the dinosaurs were around, right? The big asteroid wiped everything out. Life started all over. So water basically breaks down, and uranium is radioactive, and that's what's the element of Earth. So you're going to have uranium and radium and branium and all these other elements, especially here in Colorado, because as groundwater supply, it's rock, and water sits in rock, and over the years, rock will deteriorate, and then that metal, it's a dissolved solid, is in our water supply. So that's another issue that we have that you can add, to that water drop example of contaminants, So when you're doing water filtration and reverse osmosis, the other thing you really want to think about, in my opinion, is, when an RO membrane is nanofiltration, so it can absorb a lot of these contaminants. We need to rethink, on a side note, how often we change our RO filters based upon all the contamination that we've learned. You know, especially in the last 2 years of us, you know, really hitting the PFAS. 2024 is when we first learned about PFAS. We started talking about it on this show.
Right.
You know, another thing too is a contaminant that we've mentioned before, and it's been around for over 100 years. Is 1,4-dioxin. You know, why is that still an unregulated contaminant? So what this means, guys, you know, is the EPA has a list of unregulated contaminants that are in our water. We're trying to, you know, share with you they're there and why we're doing this, because the Water Quality Act in the 70s passed a law that says, hey, you need to let people know what's in the water so they can make up their own mind how much water they want to consume. They're paying for it. They're a consumer, correct?
Right.
Well, if you're not telling the truth and you're not letting the customer know what's really going on, then is that right? For example, would you sell anything? You can't go out and sell a product and lie about it, right? Truth in advertising.
Sure.
Okay. Would you go out and buy something and have someone come out and install something before they tell you what the price is going to be?
No.
No. Okay.
Right.
So, you know, we know what our water bill is, so why can't they be truthful to tell us exactly what's, you know, 100% in the water? Why do they have to have an unregulated contamination list? So the question is it the fear factor? Do they not want us to realize how dangerous our water is? I mean, ask that question. It makes no sense to me that they want to keep an unregulated contamination list. Folks, you can do this research yourself. I went AI search engine, Chat GPT, and then that one for Google. I forget what they're called. Anyway, you go to the AI, you tap in EPA's unregulated contamination list that's in my water, and you'll get the same information that we're sharing with you today.
Right. And many of these are, when I said scientific names earlier, here's one called sulfamethoxazole or trimethoprim, which is a frequent exposure to low levels of antibiotics in waters that may contribute to the global rise of the antibiotic-resistant bacteria.
So everything is in our food chain. It's all over. So from the water gets to the plants, the vegetables, the meat. So we're consuming it, you know, those three ways, right? From the drinking, from the fruit, from the vegetables, and the meat products. And now we're getting to where antibiotics. There's another thing that's scary. You know, not only if we're getting to antibiotic resistant, but in that same category, these things can, you know, become resistant to the chlorination, which is the disinfectant they use for our water supply.
So they're dumping it in, and it's resistant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's something that a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant, fluoxetine or Prozac, and other psychotropic drugs commonly detected, they're using a fluorinated drug. Fluorinated is PFAS. So what that means is Prozac is basically made with a forever chemical that's in our water supply. Prozac.
Wow.
So that means, so understand this. If I have a psychotropic drug that's made with a forever chemical compound that's designed to basically what? Not disappear. And it's in our water supply. So we have forever chemical, so the pharmaceutical forever chemical contamination to me means that strain of medication doesn't break down, it doesn't dissolve, doesn't disappear, it stays. Forever means forever.
Right.
So they designed that to be what? Long lasting in the body. And then as we expel it, it stays in the water supply. Now, a part per billion or part per trillion, as that builds up in the water supply, does that mean that, you know, every time, you know, does that mean that you know, if I see somebody out there that's basically, you know, having a tough day, you know, it needs a mood stabilizer, we just say, hey, go get a glass of water? I mean, you know, if there's going to be Prozac,
be sure you take your pills.
Pill, yeah.
Go get a glass of water.
Get a glass of water. I mean, it's so if we know that water has a, you know, Prozac in it, I mean, these are things that the question that you have to really think is that what other contaminants at low levels, part per billion or part per trillion. Now, think outside the box here. If a forever chemical is hazardous at a part per trillion basis, now they want zero. They want nothing in there, and because then what about Prozac? And what about other medication at that same level? So technically, then, wouldn't you agree, if a part per billion and part per trillion is too high for the PFAS, then wouldn't that mean the same for the Prozac that's made with a fluorinated drug? Wouldn't that fit the same thing?
You would sure think so.
So why not? Why not tell us? Why shouldn't the EPA be 100% truthful? Why not come out and say, okay, this is the quality of our water, this is the dangers of it, this is what we think, so we can make that own decision.
At least to know.
Right.
Yeah.
So people. If that's the case, why not have government-sponsored programs, with tax incentives or whatever, like they used to with the EV, the vehicles, and back then, with the solar panels, that was a booming industry for a short term. Why not, but do something that says, hey, we really, suggest that you take, control of your water quality yourself.
Right. And, a few weeks ago, we kind of spent a lot of time on the water in Castle Rock, and I had noticed a lot of different posts of people talking about one direct quote was, our water smells like a public swimming pool, and talking about families being sick, kids being sick, and Karen, I believe was her name,
Right.
Called in and talked about that. And so, this is not going to get better on its own.
No.
That's for sure.
No.
And so you got to take control of your own water, and this is the only way to do it.
Well, so water filtration isn't plug and play. You really need to know the basics of, water hardness affects filter operation and the filter absorption ratio factor. Because if you have hard water is going to occupy that filter, and then the filter won't absorb the contaminants that you want to remove. That's why it's really important to understand that reverse osmosis drinking water filtration systems work properly when supported by soft water or water softener. The two go hand in hand. Years ago, when I first got involved in this industry over 35 years ago, it was brand new. They used to sell this. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but there was a movie that called Tin Man with Danny DeVito and Richard Dreyfuss, and they'd go around and sell. Yeah. Remember that? Sure. And so they tell people that they're going to get aluminum siding for the house, so your house can be on Picture of Life magazine. Everybody, oh yeah, they want to be on Life magazine back then. So, gimmicks, water softeners, they still do it today. I was at a house Thursday where this guy, they're going door to door, knocking and doing a water test, and they're trying to give away free soap. And they're saying that the free soap that they're going to give these people are worth, $8,000 worth of free soap. Now, that's an illusion. There's no way that anybody's going to give you $8,000 worth of free soap, but they're trying to show that as an example to justify the $15,000 system they want to sell somebody. And that's alarming to me right there. That there's these big outfits are going, be aware if you go through a big box store, like, Costco or Home Depot, or I don't know if Sam's Club does it, but if you sign up, you're not getting a system from them. They're basically, farming it out to another company that's going to come and do this presentation, try to scare the bejeebus out of you about your water is going to kill you. And there's some legitimate concerns you should have, but, when you get somebody that wants to give you something for free, a free soap package, or we're going to give you a Costco cash card of $750 with the purchase of this system, you're paying for that.
Sure.
There's nothing free there. And that's the gimmicky aspect of it. Last point, everybody that is in the water treatment industry that comes to your home and wants to put in a water softener, make them show you that they have two things. They're either a water conditioning contractor, and they'll have a contractor number, or they need to be like Water Pros, a plumbing contractor, and they also need to have the water conditioning specialist. If you're a water conditioning principal, then you need to have certified water quality installers, or like Water Pros, we use master plumbers to install, but they need to be registered. And if they're not registered, then don't use them, because then that means they're not legit.
Right. Paul the Waterman is with us. It is Water Pros, 303-862-5554. And Paul, you do a lot of things on YouTube, different things. Where can people find some of that?
So if you go, all our shows, if you go to YouTube and look up Paul the Waterman, where all our shows are on the YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is called Paul the Waterman. Everything that we've done, there's over 220 shows.
We've done a lot.
We've done a lot.
We've done a lot.
Yeah, right. So you can see, you know, how we evolved, you know, in the very beginning. You know, I've mentioned 1,4-dioxane a lot. That's something I thought was brand new.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it's been around for over 100 years.
Like you.
Right.
It's Water Pros. Give them a call now, 303-862-5554. We'll be right back.
Turn a normal day into an adventure on an e-bike. Hi, I'm Randy Caranci, founder of E-Bike of Colorado. E-bikes are a fun way to ride around town. Just try it. Pedal assist technology flattens the steepest hills. We have 14 major brands to choose from, and our expert staff will find you the perfect bike. Come take a free test ride at E-Bike of Colorado in downtown Louisville next to the historic grain elevator. Open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Learn more at ebikeofcolorado.com. Just try it.
Need new glasses fast? With Stack Optical's on-site lab, you'll get your prescription glasses in just 3 to 4 days. No long wait times. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and I've trusted my eye care to Allen Stack and Stack Optical for the last 15 years. Eye exams are only $69, and that should be a part of your physical checkups each year. For over 50 years, Denver has trusted this family-owned boutique eye care center for premium vision care, custom eyewear, and expert repairs. See the Stack Optical difference today. Call 303-321-1578. That's 303-321-1578 and tell them Scott sent you. Stack Optical. Since 1968, at Stack Optical, you'll see the difference.
You're listening to KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. My name is Scott Watley, along with Paul the Waterman. And Paul, any interesting couple of stories from some visits lately of something you found that maybe you knew in a certain area or something like that?
Right. You know, one of the things that was very surprising to me was the levels of the hardness increase. I mentioned Commerce City Reunion. So a handful of years ago, Adams County spent over $1 billion on this water filtration media that they've got from Germany, some company in Germany. And they passed a tax levy on Commerce City Reunion. I think they raised their sales tax to over 9% to help cover this cost. And then Adams County sent out, this before the PFAS issue, sent out letters saying, hey, adjust your water softeners, down to 7 grams per gallon. We got this media, and it didn't last very long. So I remember people calling us, and saying, hey, we need you to come out and adjust our system. And now, within a handful of years, the water hardness is right back to where it was in the very beginning, but yet people are still paying that 9% sales tax.
Wow.
So,
I wonder how many people realize that.
Well, that's right. And the point is, once a tax is, you and I both know, once a tax is passed, they never goes away, right? You ever hear somebody, a tax cut, we get tax cuts or tax breaks, but those tax cuts are usually short term. It's a short-term solution. Now you're at 9% sales tax to pay for a filtration media that is not doing anything.
Right.
And the forever chemical issue. Okay, something else. Mobile home parks. Colorado in 2024 passed a law that's basically water quality for mobile home parks. So mobile home parks that have to have their water. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment is going to send out an agency that they've hired to test water quality at a mobile home park. The water quality then, if it doesn't meet EPA standards, then that the owners and operator of that mobile home park are going to be mandated to improve the quality of the water. So, if you're a mobile home park operator, Water Pros can help out because we have, licensed operators on staff that we can, help you mitigate any issues you have, or, because we're licensed, we can be your liaison with Colorado Department of Public Health and talk to them, about what their concerns are, the issues are, and, also, a lot of these, mobile home parks now, have to have, either ultraviolet light, but majority of the state likes to have a chlorine injection system. And so if you have a piece of property and then you have 3 mobile homes on that property, you qualify now as a mobile home park.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's some folks out there that have a piece of land and put a couple trailers up, and connect to a septic system and then a well. And now you're a mobile home park. So you're going to have to monitor that water, the water quality. So this is unique about it. We learned a year ago that if you're a renter and you're renting a home that's on well water, the landlord is not obligated to improve the quality of the water for you. But a mobile home park is. How does that make sense?
That's interesting.
Right? So if I'm a landlord and I've got, people who are renting a house and the water quality is just horrid, that TDS is too high, it's unsafe to drink, it's not my problem. However, but to mobile home park it is. So that's kind of where common sense doesn't make sense in this situation. If you're going to monitor one, why not the other? Because what's really the difference?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Quality of water is a quality of water. So, now the EPA, one last thing I want to kind of backtrack. The Environmental Protection Agency currently classifies a bunch of emerging contaminants as an emerging concern, and they do not yet mandate or have a federally mandatory safety limits for most pharmaceuticals in the drinking water. So more, and that's something that is concerning because basically you're ingesting a cocktail of trace drugs over your lifetime, and how do we know, what's going to counter-react with the current medication you take? So long story short, if I have Prozac, that's a mood stabilizer that's made of a forever chemical, what other medications are used to make that, or medications that have forever chemicals in it? My point being is the bigger, as the community grows, the concentration levels of these pharmaceutical contaminants are going to increase just basically by population size and what goes down the toilet.
Sure.
We also, to have unregulated viruses, the EPA, it goes back. Why would you allow an unregulated virus? You know what that means? That means that there's, it's a virus contamination that they know it's in the water, so they don't tell us. So, you realize, you remember we talked about this, and I'm going to reiterate, COVID was that invisible monster that consumed everything. Remember when it started? It was right? Water. COVID spread in the drinking water.
To think about it, it was probably about somewhere in this time.
Right. Time frame. Yeah. No, you're right.
Because March Madness, was getting going and different things with basketball. And, it was probably pretty close in here.
COVID, so it hit the most vulnerable. So nursing homes, you always thought this was, it was almost like watching a real life sci-fi horror play out in real time. And nursing homes that were affected the most. Why was that? Well, because your immune system is down. You're the most vulnerable. As we get older. But it was the water. They were giving them water contaminated with the COVID virus. And then they wouldn't let anybody go in. They shut the doors, locked it up.
Oh, yeah.
You had to say hi to people through a glass window and watch them fade away. And then, the virus attacked the lung. It was horrid. Drinking water. That's how. Have you ever wondered how they could find out what strain of flu virus is out there and how it's mutated and how it's changed? It's in our drinking water.
Yeah, because different strains every year,
Right.
They'll talk about different things about that. And so these unregulated viruses, and again, it's from the EPA, okay? This isn't from Water Pro's computer Word document, all right? This is from the EPA. These viruses are frequently detected in water sources, but currently lack federal maximum contaminant levels. So, do you want any, whatever part of billion, trillion, whatever?
They
right?
don't.
Do you want anything in there?
No, not at all. It's a virus. So cruise ships. that get the that get the virus contamination, the stomach virus. Is it not the adenoid virus, right? In cruise ships, and well, it's because it's their water distribution system that gets contaminated. You would think a cruise ship would have an ultraviolet light filtration system in there, but it's just insane. You would think a cruise ship would have to be mandated, and have some sort of licensed water operator, but that's what happens. It's in the water.
Sure. So that was the adenovirus, known for causing respiratory infections and occasionally gastrointestinal illnesses. This one's including the norovirus. It is calic viruses, CALICVIRUSES, calic viruses. And that's the leading cause of acute gastroenteritis outbreaks. While common, they're primarily managed through general disinfection requirements other than specific limits. And all these disinfection things, again, we talked about this when we talked about the cast rock thing. How much, and you said this, so if you live really close to that water treatment facility and they're dumping in whatever amounts of,
the maximum limit of chlorine that can be in your water in your home is 4 part per million. That's insane. That's
so the first house, son. Their house is going to smell like a swimming pool.
Absolutely. You're going to get diarrhea. You're going to get upset stomach. You're going to you're going to throw up. But that's just a part of it. Dry skin. It's going to bleach your clothes in the laundry. I mean, it's horrific.
Go ahead.
Well, here's another thing people don't realize. High chlorine content. If you live in a home that was built in the 50s up to the early 80s, they used lead solder. So chlorine, gets leaches lead from the lead solder in your water supply.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got enteroviruses and hepatitis A and E.
Can you believe that's not regulated?
While hepatitis A is occasionally linked to waterborne outbreaks, it's currently on the candidate or research list rather than being strictly regulated.
The EPA.
That's a shocking statement.
Right there. The EPA. Why? They know. That's what I'm saying. That's why, it's like, why do they put a stranglehold on the information of truth?
Mm-hmm.
That's my question. Why even do this?
No. And then the last one here we're going to cover real quick, rotavirus. That sounds bad already.
Rotavirus.
Okay. And that's a major cause of severe diarrhea, especially in children. And again, that's what so many of those posts that I saw on the Castle Rock neighborhood app were talking about. So what kids have being sick and having diarrhea.
So what this means, Scott, is that viruses or people that get the stomach bug, it's drinking water. It's what clearly that's what this is. Viruses are giving to us through the water we drink. I mean, that's just plain and simple. And then we have an unregulated bacteria on this list. Legionella pneumophilia.
Man, that sounds bad.
Well, it's the cause of Legionnaires' disease.
Right.
It's basically because of contamination of water supply. They had an outbreak in New York. Then we have the last one. It's an emerging parasite, a protozoa, Nigelliri fowler. It's a brain-eating amoeba. That's right. That's what it's called, the brain-eating amoeba. Okay. Reason why I got so excited, folks, I don't mean to get excited about it, but we reported several times about brain-eating amoebas unfortunately getting folks causing death in Texas and Florida because they used their water to rinse their sinus cavities. So here it is. This is the name of the brain-eating amoeba. And it's an unregulated contaminant. How can that be?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. So here's something else that should be alarming. This is where you put two and two together here, folks. If I'm chlorinating it, and yet these are still unregulated viruses in the water supply. Do you follow me? If I'm chlorinating it, that means chlorine is not touching this.
Sure.
That is scary in itself, and that's why they should tell us. I have an ultraviolet light. I have sinusitis. I had to have 3 sinus surgeries. And so they told me point blank, don't use tap water. Don't use tap water. So I put a UV system in. But they should tell everybody this so everybody has the right choice to make the decision. You need a UV.
Yep. And you have the right to make the decision now by calling Water Pros, 303-862-5554. When you call, let them know you heard Paul here on Water Talk on KLZ 560, and they'll get you fixed up. When we come back, we've given you a lot of doom and gloom. What's going on? We're going to tell you how you can fix it with Water Pros right after this.
Here's why you need personal injury attorney Kevin Flesh on your side. He understands the way the jury thinks. In the context of a personal injury case, you've been hurt by someone else's negligence. The idea is that you're going to try to recover so that you can get back to where you were just prior to that incident occurring. What that really means from a jurist perspective is that you're going to be asking them to award you money. So when we talk about fairness, we're talking about 6 people that you don't know. Those 6 people view the evidence and make a unanimous decision that will decide what the fair value is. When you're the one who's hurt, you have a good idea of what you think it's worth. The question is, can you persuade those other individuals whom you don't know and were witnesses to believe that's what the case is worth? Kevin Flesh understands the way the jury thinks. Call now for a free consultation, 303-806-8886.
When it comes to caring for your pet, you want a veterinary team you can trust, and that's exactly what you'll find at Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center. Their compassionate and experienced team offers a full range of services to keep your pets healthy at every stage of life, from comprehensive wellness exams and vaccinations to advanced diagnostics, dental care, and surgery. Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center is equipped to handle all of your pet's medical needs. They also provide digital x-rays, in-house lab testing, parasite prevention, microchipping, and personalized treatment plans designed specifically for your dog or cat. Whether your pet needs routine preventative care or specialized medical attention, the team at Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center is dedicated to providing the highest level of care in a warm and welcoming environment. Don't forget, Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center also offers grooming, boarding, and puppy training. Call today to schedule an appointment or learn more about their services at LoneTreeVet.com. Call 303-708-8050. That's 303-708-8050. Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center. It's the place where my pets go.
This is KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to the show. Paul the Waterman is with us. As I mentioned before the break, we've given you a lot of information today. Man, hey, I think you can summation this. Okay? Your water is really not safe to drink for your overall health. And that's not us saying it. That's the EPA saying it. Again, you can Google these things on your own. Our water is contaminated. And Paul, you can help us out. So let's start. We start with the in-home water test, okay? Let's just start there.
So what we do, folks, is we'll come out and do a free water test. We'll test basic, testing on site is hard water, total chlorine. We do a TDE, total dissolved solid test. Folks, I want to real quick, there's a total dissolved solid. It's a TDS meter, and a TDS meter does not measure hardness. It measures total dissolved solids. A TDS meter specifically, in my opinion, is designed to measure the proper functionality of a reverse osmosis. So I've been to a couple of homes where folks have a TDS meter, and the TDS meter, again, does not measure water hardness. Okay, so we'll come out, we'll do the test, and we'll go over what the results are, and then let you make up your decision as far as, hey, and what kind of water treatment system, you would like to use. Water Pros put together our whole house matrix system. If you go to waterpros.net, you'll see a picture of it. It's a multimedia filtration system. It uses KDF55 and activated carbon in the top chamber. The bottom chamber has water softening resin. And
is that what you mean when we say multimedia, just to break it down?
Right. So,
okay.
Yeah, so KDF55 and activated carbon work really well together, but the KDF55 is also bacteria resistant. So bacteria won't grow. It protects the carbon. And carbon is used to remove the forever chemicals. So KDF55 can remove the chlorine content, we use enough activated carbon that we can attack the forever chemicals in the water, and then we go through the water softening resin to remove the hardness. So, that being said, with the reverse osmosis supported by this system, now you're allowing the RO, reverse osmosis, to work solely on the pharmaceutical contamination that we want. We're also recommending, as we just, people think about adding, the ultraviolet light system because of the bacteria and viruses. There is a laundry list of viruses that are in our water supply that they do not tell us.
Right.
So, so UV zaps the bacteria so they don't breed and multiply. An ultraviolet light system does the same thing with the virus, zaps the virus so they don't breed and multiply. You can have a reverse osmosis, and reverse osmosis is designed to get, pharmaceutical, contamination, organic contamination out of the water. But it's small enough to stop a virus or a bacteria, but it doesn't kill it. So eventually then that virus and bacteria could breed its way out. Okay. I think an RO system is an absolute because of what we covered in the first part of the show with pharmaceutical contamination. But, now with all the research that we're doing in these unregulated lists of viruses and bacteria that's clearly in our water supply that they know it's there, an ultraviolet light, it seems to me to be a no-brainer, in addition to.
Right.
Chlorine. Chlorine by itself relies on contact time. The city of Castle Rock announced that they're going away from the chloramine. Chloramine was chlorine mixed with ammonia, and it didn't dissipate. It stayed. But what Castle Rock is doing is putting so much chlorine in there to make up for that dissipation that it's making people sick. So what that means is that, the person at the very last end has to have a minimum of about 0.4 part per million of total chlorine content. So the folks that are closer to the water plant, you're going to get a higher level of concentration of chlorine than your neighbor that's on the very end of the water line.
Sure.
Then you got natural organics that are in the water line, so chlorine is going to be absorbed. Chlorine is an oxidizer, so you're going to have iron content that's in the water. You could have manganese in the water that's natural occurring because if they take it from a groundwater source, it's going to be there. Chlorine is an oxidizer, so when it oxidizes, that means it's taken out. Once chlorine touches another element and converts it to a solid, then that chlorine is diminished. So this is all them taken in consideration. We have a situation where we're going to be in reusable water, so we're going to have all the contaminants that we talked about, the pharmaceuticals, right, at a higher concentration level plus the chlorination aspect, and all metro area, is going to be part of this. It's going to be this issue. So, okay. So the Matrix water filtration system helps with the high chlorine content, the forever chemicals, and the hard water.
Okay.
That system, we're about $5,100 for that unit, but for KLZ listeners, mention you heard this program, we'll do it for $41.95.
Okay. And that's installed.
That's installed. Now, this is for KLZ. This is for,
right. Water Talk
listeners.
Don't tell anybody else.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. Tell everybody.
Right.
We want everybody to have good water.
Point of use reverse osmosis units, you're looking, average price is, $1,300. I want to make an announcement here. We have, and I've looked at this, and I wasn't a fan of tankless ROs, but we found a tankless RO unit that, their research has impressed me that I believe, okay, a tankless RO system has to be supported by a water softener. It really does. Okay. And I say this real quick, the bottled water industry effect. Remember what happened with bottled water? It had contamination with microplastics, correct? That's because they weren't pre-treating the reverse osmosis that they were using for the bottled water. Okay, so a tankless RO technology has to be supported by soft water. It just has to. You're looking about, $2,100 for a tankless RO.
Okay.
Okay. Standard reverse osmosis, our prices, start around $1,500, $1,300 installed. A UV light, a point of use, ultraviolet light, average a 10 gallon per minute is going to run you about $1,500. If you got a bigger home, larger family, you want a 15 gallon per minute RO, it's going to run you about $1,900. So,
and that was kind of my question. Like when you go into a house, do you go by size of home or
water usage?
How many people?
Yeah, water usage.
Okay.
Right. And so, one of the things, Scott, that I'm not ashamed of is I think we got the best prices in town. And so a point of use RO unit with the Matrix Whole House Water Softener is $54.95. And a lot of my competitors start right there just for a water softener.
Wow. Okay.
$54.95. Mm-hmm. If you add the ultraviolet light, you got a complete package for under $7,000. And a lot of my competitors, just for a softener and RO, they want $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I
actually walked around the Denver, I guess they call it the Home Show down at the Convention Center a few weeks back. And there were a few companies there and saw a few signs like that were $11,000, $12,000, $13,000.
There's a major big plumbing contractor that advertises everywhere. They're going into homes. They want $15,000. And the problem. Here's the thing. Capitalism works. And, it kind of scares me. Younger generation want to go to socialism because nothing's for free. They want to give me because, do you ever notice this on a side note, not to get political, but socialism, they want socialism in a failed democratic society, right? The Democrat run government, state of New York. Democrats have ruined that state for generations and they like the socialists. Why? Brainwash. I don't get it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Different story. I think when you're thinking about water filtration, you want to talk with somebody that knows what they're talking about, that can explain this. It's not a cookie cutter situation. I don't know anybody else that takes the time, to want to explain and educate folks what they're getting.
No, and you're not just saying that. Karen that did the testimonial for us last minute here, but Karen said, hey, he was the only one that really took the time to explain, my water, what I needed, and not just, she could tell people were just selling systems.
Well, yeah, cookie cutter solutions don't work. You don't want to be a fear factor. Honesty works. Everything that we talk about, is there a fear factor in water? It scares me, absolutely.
Sure.
Right? But you need to be able to explain, what it's going to do, how it's going to do it, and how it's going to eliminate these issues. Mm-hmm. But, let's go back to, not to regress, but I can't believe a brain-eating amoeba is an unregulated contaminant.
Right. No, when you look unregulated, that should just tell you.
Right there.
Right there.
If we have unregulated contaminants, how scary we should think this.
Yeah. And there's a list of them. But Water Pros can help you have that cool, clean water. Give them a call, 303-862-5554. And when you call, let them know you heard Paul here on Water Talk. We'd appreciate that as well. So, Paul, we appreciate all your knowledge, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Man.
You have a great weekend. God bless everybody.
All right. Same to you. Thanks for being with us today for Water Talk. Call now, folks. Don't put it off anymore. 303-862-5554. Have a great day.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Crawford Broadcasting, the station, management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.